let me just hit start first and then we can talk about all of that. So, welcome to the Rocket Launcher podcast. This is episode 32. I am your host, Supreme King, and I am joined by my co-host, and his name is...
It's your guy Omazis.
Yes, and how are you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing swell. How are you doing?
Swell. I'm doing great. I want to talk about the big game that everybody is trashing lately, which is Forspoken. We're going to talk about that first, but I want to address one thing. I don't actually have the Forspoken footage here. Right now it's showing God of War, but it would have made more sense for me to have the footage ready. I just didn't have the footage ready, unfortunately. But when I do have some of that footage ready, it's going to be like 3 episodes worth of footage, because I had like actually more than one clip. And then hopefully I should have a big solo video on it this upcoming Monday. But yeah,
my gameplay is on an older podcast episode if you want to see demo footage.
I think it was in the beginning too, of like 2 or 3 episodes ago. So if they click back, they could probably see it. But my main thing I want to say before I tell you about everything is, you probably should have played this demo for yourself. I'm going to say some controversial stuff, I guess, but that's the energy that I'm on when it's pertaining to all the stuff that's going on with Forspoken. But anyways, I also want to mention there will be some Last of Us Part 1 or Last of Us Episode 1 spoilers, technically. I mean, technically, you know what happened if you watch this show, because you probably played the game anyway, but that's going to be at the very end, the very, very end. So you don't have to worry about getting spoiled on that right away if you haven't seen it already. You could just cut it off early, and I'll let you know right away when we get to that point. But that's going to be at the very end of the show. We have a few things in between, and then at the middle, you already know I'm going to go over the free stuff as well as a lot of deals that I want you to take a look at it if you haven't already bought the game. So yeah, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get into this first topic real quick. So Forspoken is getting a lot of bad press. I have problems with it for what it did represent in the demo. But I'm seeing rumblings on the internet now about people going on and on about the review copies not being presented to like a lot of people, and so it's going to be a lack of reviews before launch. But I feel like I have to push back on that, because the people should have made some conclusion already from the demo. Anybody that's looking to play this right away, I feel like you should have just played the demo going off of that for yourself. It would be in your hand, right? And you would have played it for yourself enough to let you know whether or not you want the full package or not, right?
Or if you really need to see somebody else play, somebody else should have already played the demo. Like, we've already played the demo, but like all the people that people like to watch, they should have just played the demo, and boom, you got your review copy. Like this weird, I just want free stuff. Like, no, go, like, you got
I really do think I want free stuff energy, and I wanted it to just use it for the channel energy, because everybody who's complaining about it, like, you would have probably watched their review impressions of the demo, because they would have definitely done a demo video if they're complaining about not having that, right? Like, I don't see why you would complain if the demo's out there. It's just, to me, it's just like the people should have just played that. It would have been representative of like another game that we had a rumor that it has a battle pass that we're going to talk about later on, but it's like, wouldn't the demo be the quote unquote free to play version, and then like the actual game is like in the same league as if you buy a season thing, kind of? If you're missing content, whatever. Because the demo didn't really give you all those people that they put at the end of the preview of it, where they show like all these people talking and like a queen and stuff. Like, they weren't really in the demo. They were in the promotional material and in the trailer. The demo is just raw gameplay of a certain area, right? And I think that should have been representative enough. in my opinion, for the average person to make a conclusion.
And not only that, I feel like this whole it doesn't feel like it's some like shady, tricky thing going on. There's not going to be people who, especially if like they rely on a review, like somebody reviewing the game before purchasing it. They're not going to be like, well, I guess there's no reviews. Guess I got to buy it on day one for $70 and just hope. Like, they'll still wait.
Yeah, they're still going to wait.
The people who do reviews, now you got to go buy the game. If you want to know what it is and how it fully is, and you feel like you can't base it off of the demo, now you got to buy the game. Like, okay, you're now the rest of us. Like, congrats. It's weird that this is like the whole, that's a shocker. Like, everyone had a review copy. It's play the demo.
The demo is the review.
Review
now, I'm not trying to defend them if the game is really like buggy or broken or whatever, because I'm going to tell you right now, going off the demo, I ain't like it. But I'm going off the demo. I'm going off the demo, but I ain't like it. I really didn't like it. I believe,
if I remember my review, I don't remember that much, but I remember saying that like there were some things I didn't like some of the traversal stuff I didn't like, it was just empty, and I feel like the combat would be better with context. Like they kind of just threw you in. It was like you got firepower, and now you got purple magic, and switch between them and go. And like I didn't really know what I was like supposed to be doing, and then it was just like talking. And I didn't like the talking. I remember mentioning that for sure that I didn't like the talking. Now, I think this game might be surprisingly well, like this year, and you're going complete opposite.
No, I think this game trash. But I'm saying it's trash based on the demo.
I'm saying it might be surprisingly well based off of what they can fix from the demo.
It's only so much. That was fine. Like there's only so much you can do from the demo, right? But it's still, that was what was supposed to get people to say, this is what I want to buy, right? Because of the demo. It was supposed to make you, oh my God, I cannot wait to play the real thing. But I didn't feel like I wanted to play the real thing. What I was saying in the video that's going to come out, it was like, I will wait for this to be on sale, or if it shows up as a PS Plus or Game Pass game.
Yeah. So
it has to be that. Other than that,
that's same.
Full price, no, absolutely not.
So I'm not gonna pay full price, and I don't think it'll be like Game of the Year or something like that. No. But I don't think it's going to. I can't wait to see if I'm proven wrong. I might be. I probably will be. But I don't think it's going to be as bad as projected, as like everyone thinks it's about to be. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think it's going to be a relatively decent game. We'll see though. It'll still probably be something that I would pick up on sale, but like I feel like it's going to be a decent game based off of just the combat, and if they could like lessen how much they talk to you. Which High on Life did that game. There's like a thing you could switch where it's either like it's full on constant talking, or you can turn it down to where they don't talk as much. And it's like that's what this game needs. That's what a lot of them need now. Like you can just turn off talking to yourself, or like having to talk and be like you can't travel in silence.
So I made a reference to the game Biomutant because it had a patch update where they actually did shut up the dude, whoever he was. And I felt like this is going to need that. That's what I was saying. But I actually think it's bad also because of the combat. But I'll get to that to the second. But the main thing that makes it way worse for me is definitely the dialogue. It was just way too cringy. But I felt like it was cringy because of the girl too. It was just how she acts. Because she sounded the same way in the Resident Evil Netflix show. And I remember being cringed out by that a little bit as well. But at the same time, she was just like trying to curse like a sailor, and it just didn't fit. It did not fit. It definitely didn't sound like a girl from New York. I was just like, you don't sound like a girl from New York. You sound like an actress.
New York, they cuss like a sailor.
They can cuss, but they have a certain tone to their cussing.
True.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they would have been better off going to get Nicki Minaj. Like because she has a certain tone to how she talked. Like I didn't get that tone at all. She was just like just saying all the words. I'm not gonna repeat, but you know, it was so cringe.
Yeah. And you know me, we've talked about this before, that I don't mind a cringy dialogue here and there. Like, I wasn't as upset by the I'm fighting freaking dragons thing as everyone else was. Because in my head, I was like, if I got thrown into a video game world and the first thing I gotta do is fight a dragon, I'd probably say the same thing.
But that was the thing. What made that bad was her voice.
It was
that trailer.
Right.
That trailer was her voice. She was that trailer, and that's what made it bad. And then they redid it, right? Like did it at the Game Awards, and she wasn't talking as much. And it was like a little bit better then, but at that point it was practically too late because, well, right then and there it wasn't too late because they said, here's the demo. But then when they did that next trailer, everybody was disliking that one because they all got a taste of the demo. At that point, they just like gave up on it. It was just like, all right, we know this game is bad. Is what everybody else is saying.
I didn't personally think the combat was as bad.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was chaotic, but like, I didn't mind it that much. And that was like the parts of the demo that I enjoyed was when I was just straight up fighting. Like, that was fine. It was the relatively empty world, and then just constantly those two, I mean her and the bracelet just talking. That
the bracelet thing is very silly, but I don't want to crack on it too much because that's just how they're trying to be creative. You know, when we try to tell them be creative, it just comes off goofy. It really comes off goofy.
Like I said, my issue is like how, and I think I mentioned this last week, where it's just their games are like afraid of silence and everything. Where it's like if they were occasionally talking and the bracelet is like guiding, like it's a magic world, sure. Yeah. But if it's like every single moment of not action has to be them just striking up a conversation, it's like, okay, I don't like, you don't have to do that. Like it's okay to just be at peace and just figure out where you're going.
So why I say the combat was bad is because it relies on you to always shoot projectiles from a distance. You can never really get up close and do the melee without getting hurt, basically. And without actually, like, you can't really, the melee up front is just because you are in close proximity, but you can't really rely on it. And it was like
good. I was doing it with the fire blade. I was fighting with that.
I'm saying that's how I want to fight. I don't want to use, but at the same time, I didn't want to like put it against the game that much because going into it, everything I saw was her fighting from a distance. But when I did the fighting where it was similar to that footage that they took down, all I did was go around in a circle, like out in the open. Just as long as you went around in a circle in a distance, you would almost never get hit. And you would just like keep throwing the projectiles and everything. And that was really it. But there were moments where she had her little fire dagger thing and it wasn't allowing me to control it. Like, I didn't know if it was like a thing with the game itself, like saying, if you're in this area, this is what you use. But I hadn't noticed because I kept going back into the menu to try to like pick the certain things. But I think it was more if you're in certain areas. I think when you get the full game, you get to pick it, but you couldn't pick it when the demo.
I got to pick it. So you got to pick the first part, it was like, hey, you got projectiles, and they were like, hey, you got fire weapons.
Yeah.
And then after that, you could freely switch back and forth. And it gets like I was using the fire weapons on everything but the two bosses. Well, the first boss, the boss on the bridge. That's when I switched to the projectile.
Yeah.
Because she kept whiplashing at me, but then the lizard thing at the end, I used the fire weapon. I kept using like fire barriers. I was able to switch.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I just missed that. I was in the menu like scrolling around back and forth. I was like, how all of a sudden
there's a button press that you have to do. Like it was like press like triangle or left or something like that, and it switches between the two.
Maybe that's what it was, because there were moments where the second I got into a new area, it switched without me doing anything, and so I also her boost running ability is fine for boost running, but I don't think that it works very well for dodging. As far as like if you're trying to like basically not get hit, it was not satisfying. Like I could still do it. And I did it with the lizard at the very end. I made the lizard look useless. The lizard did not look like a good boss fight. It wasn't a good boss fight.
I gotta see your combat because that lizard whooped my butt. But
no, I danced circles around him basically.
I did not. Maybe because I was using the fire weapon, so like I did not. That thing was hitting me.
It still got some hits in. It got hits in. I can't say like I didn't get hit at all, but
oh no, it took like 2 or 3 tries.
But everything that I was doing, I think it was meant for you to not beat them in a way, because almost everything was like resistant. It kept saying it on screen, resistant, immune. It was coming up, and I thought like, okay, so you can't do heavy damage on it, but you could do little damage. And so I basically was chipping away at him for like 10 minutes, and it was really long. It was really long, but it felt like forever. But then I finally got him at the end, and then he kind of like, fall over and you do your stuff. But I don't know. When I was thinking about it, I was like, well, if I take this boss out and I put one of the other bosses from the trailers, it's like they'll throw projectiles that will hit you. But in order to win, you have to do the same thing that I did, and you just basically kept moving. If you look at any of the trailer footage,
require you to keep moving.
If you look at the trailer footage from before, the way they were promoting the game was that she was getting her butt kicked the whole time, and all the big moves was just like hitting her and stuff. And right before it like annihilated her, they would flash the Forspoken like logo. And I remember looking at it, I'm like, yo, she really getting her butt kicked the whole time. But like in the game, I was really able to see that, and I was just like, well, unless I just move out the way in that same circle, I'm always going to get hit by the other opponent. And I was like, not everybody's going to be this like alligator, they're going to be like people with magic and stuff. And I was just like, I'm not with it. Like I still can't say I'm a Souls player yet, but I can say I can despise some of the Souls players who only rely on magic. And this felt like an amplified version of that. Well, like where you were forced to do it.
Power.
Yeah. Like, and so I was just like,
all right, I think you need to get good.
So for me, I was saying it's just not for me. It's just not for me. But no, other than that, it was like the world was empty, but like certain areas when you fought the people in the area and then you opened the chest at the end, to me that was Breath of the Wild. And I don't want to fault them for that, but when Breath of the Wild was in an empty world, yes, it was empty because of the Switch, but they found a way to make that make sense with the story of it, where here it was just empty. It was just empty for the sake of being empty.
That was one of the things I was saying before. We don't know the story. Like the demo starts you with 0 content. It was just like, here's your powers, go fight these zombies. So you don't know what's going on at all. And I think having the story is going to help a lot with the game of why you're doing what you're doing and everything you kept doing, because it's going to have context with it.
Yeah. I don't fault it too much for what it is, because I knew going into it was going to be a projectile fest, and they had the cringy girl. It was just, when actually getting my hands onto it, I was saying it's not really a game for me. I would still play it at $20 maybe, but it would have to be when it really dies down, when everybody stopped punching and kicking at it like how we're probably doing right now, or me. And then afterwards, then I'll probably give it a shot. But like 70, absolutely not. 70 is going to actually hurt it. And that hurts like a lot of new games that try to do something new. It's like, of course it's going to hurt like games that are brand new at $70. It's like people don't even know the franchises yet. But the cringy dialogue is still number one for me. I was just like, that killed it. That killed it immediately.
That's super rough.
It killed it immediately for me, because you have to keep walking and keep running in certain places, and then they're saying all this stuff, and then there was just like these like deer. It was kind of funny. It was like if you missed against the deer, or if your moves wasn't good enough, she was just like cursing, and it just didn't fit like the character that was in front of you. It didn't fit the situation. It was just like, it was bad to me. It was bad. The review copy thing, I just feel like you should have just reviewed the demo. Going off the demo though, I'm tearing it apart a little bit. I'm tearing it apart only because I played better stuff. I just feel like I played better stuff. The alligator being that boss fight, that really turned me off a little bit. It just kind of did. It was just like, yo, that's what because they put it there. It reminded me of, there's the game Thymesia. I didn't play Thymesia yet. I was watching people play their demo, and that boss fight was meant to be hard as well and hard for people to do, and it was on purpose. Where that one, if you beat the boss, you really had to earn it. Where this one, it felt like that's what they were trying to do, but it kind of exposed the limitations of the gameplay to me. Because it was just like I had to really do the same thing over and over and over again and just chip away at it and chip away at it and chip away at it. And it was just like there wasn't too much new that you can do with it. I think you were supposed to lose. That's what I really think. I think you really was supposed to lose because of how it was like not... like you was barely doing damage on it. But the thing is, it was like for me, I knew exactly what to do with it. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna keep moving. He'll never be able to touch me. And then he would touch me if I made a mistake. But for the majority of the time, he literally was not able to touch me. And I was just like, I had to wait for him to like go down. Like on screen, it's not fair. That's probably not fair. But this is a boss fight.
Compared to this.
This is a boss fight.
At the same time, what you just described is a lot of games, boss fights, where it's the boss follows a pattern.
Yeah.
And you just got to keep moving and dodge, get a couple hits and chip away and keep moving. Like, that's all.
You don't embarrass the boss on your first try. You get your butt kicked 60 times, just like how I'm getting my butt kicked right now, getting thrown all over the place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but I didn't. All I'm saying is, yeah, it maybe because you were using the projectiles or whatever, and I wasn't. But I got hurt.
It was more about me just keep moving. Like I just knew from the get-go. But there were also moments where because I was running around in the area, you were running to like certain things, the birds and the elves, not elves, deer, elks, like you were running to them. But there were moments where I literally was just trying to get to the next objective and was running around them because I was kind of sick of fighting at some point. I got sick of it. It felt like it really felt like I'm done doing this. And I'm like, yo, this is like the first hour of a demo. It's not even the full game, which we know is going to be packed with side quests. Cause that felt like a side quest thing. It was like, show up here. And then once you got there, it says completed on the screen. So it's like, it's going to be packed with a bunch of side quests where you have to do that type of stuff. And I was already sick of running into the people along the way. And they were just random people there with a chest. I was like, I didn't even want the chest. I was like, I'm done. So, and I'm like, okay, I'm 40 minutes in.
That's because you don't care about collectibles. You don't like RPG elements.
Yeah, but I was done with the combat though. I was done with the combat. I didn't want to fight the people. So yeah, I can go off of, so that's how I review the demo is like, yeah, that lets me know enough. I think I said before in the solo vid that's coming out, this is the type of game where if I want to take a break from playing my main game right now, I will play this for a couple hours. That's kind of how it feels. Because I think by that time I would get sick of it again. That was how I felt about it. And so that's how I will probably approach it. I don't think I would be like, this is the main game I'm playing this next couple weeks or a month or however long. So yeah, I guess I'm ripping it apart. But I was already ripping it apart before because that footage that they took down was very similar to what I was playing in the demo. But I remember like there was a moment where they still had the same thing happen where somebody threw up their mummy arms at you. And it was like they did a lot of that in that footage, but they did it for like a split second. Somebody threw their mummy arms up at me, but I dodged around and kept throwing projectiles at him until he was dead, but he couldn't hit me with his mummy arm attack. Whatever that was. It looked so goofy. It was so goofy. So I probably will not.
It's gonna be horrible. I think it's gonna be a surprise okay game. Again, not 70, but I think it's gonna be a decent game. So we'll see. I'm probably gonna be wrong, but we'll see.
I think it's gonna be trash for the dialogue, and it reminded me that maybe I'm like not the person that they're marketing these games towards anymore, because I don't see anybody in my generation talking like that. Like, even if they curse, they don't curse like that. They don't sound that way when they curse. It sounds like they were making the game for the next generation, and that's how they think they talk. You know,
that's a lot of stuff now, though. That's basically everything coming out is this is what they think they sound like. So.
Yeah, and it made for bad content. That was some of the content that was the way they were talking, the way she was talking in that. Reminded me of Matrix Resurrections. I was like, here's all these new people and Keanu, basically. And it was just like, when you think about it, it's like, why are they talking like this? And the explanation might be because that's what the next generation talk like. And I feel like, I don't think everybody in Gen Z is really that bad. I think they're just being severely misrepresented. Because they're trying to make it seem like everybody wants to be what all the agendas are. And maybe that's not representative of real people. And now we got way too dark. So we can move on from this. I'm not buying Forspoken. I don't know. Are you buying this? I don't think I'm buying this. Nobody wants to buy. I don't know. Oh well, they took an L. It's Square Enix. They can take L's. Square Enix always bounce back with something else.
Square Enix always takes L's. they try to bounce back, but they've been everything they've been doing has been L-ing. But
I wanted to mention something that I don't think I wrote down. It might be in my phone, but it was regarding Square Enix as well, because I believe there was mention that Square Enix was going to discontinuing support. I think it's September.
For Avengers.
For Marvel's Avengers, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to write that down. So they've apparently released they're gonna discontinue support. However, the multiplayer and single player stuff is still gonna be available to do. They're just not like gonna be patching or adding new stuff. And all of the like pay for like these cosmetic or all this equipment stuff will become free starting March 31st.
Well, that's cool.
So yeah, they're not doing anything to reimburse people who already paid for it. But after March 31st, all of the store stuff is just going to be free to everybody. Which might be the case where I jump in again just to like... So here's the thing. I stopped playing it after the main story. And there was all those DLCs that were like free and everything that I just never got to. And I feel like I should... Like, I want to get to them solely because I did pay for this game. I was one of the people who I pre-ordered, didn't look up any news beforehand, and it was one of the last games that I pre-ordered. It's one of the things that stopped me from pre-ordering or buying things day one. It was that and WWE 2K20. Those are the two that, like, it was like, I'm never again. Those broke me. But I want to go through and play through these DLCs, whether they're good or bad, because I have them. So the 31st, that's what I'll try.
So I probably will, like when they like officially are done with the game, that's probably when I will start it, because that was one of the games I didn't start. But that lets me know that's probably going to be their last patch update. So I will probably have the final version at that point. So
yeah,
I can judge it at its quote unquote best, I guess. I guess. What was happening also is Crystal Dynamics was supposed to move on to making another Tomb Raider game, as well as the full Perfect Dark remake or the next Perfect Dark, however it's going to be. So they're going to be doing those two games basically.
Will Tomb Raider be a continuation or a reboot?
I don't know yet. I would imagine it might be just a continuation. I don't think Tomb Raider ain't really that old, is it? It ain't. I don't consider that really that old.
But I thought they were only doing like a trilogy. So.
Right. Well, they be remaking a whole bunch of stuff. I wouldn't want them to remake that first game. I think that first game is fine.
Well,
I played
like
that on PS5.
Remake. I mean like refresh, where it's like a new like kind of design for Laura, and then kind of just like redoing their own story. Like not like straight up it's just a remake, but like a whole. Is it going to be fresh or is it going to be like Tomb Raider 4?
I would imagine Tomb Raider 4 because I think it would be harder for them to try to recast another actress if they still can have the same actress. Yeah. Or maybe they can get the Bayonetta girl and be like, hey, you want more than $4,000? But
we'll give you $4,000.
Yeah, we'll give you $4,500. How about that? So yeah, that and Perfect Dark. So Perfect Dark, big game from the N64 era that's going to be now Xbox exclusive. So I would like to see what they do with that. I guess with Perfect Dark it will be more about the cutscenes, I guess, because other than that, what made it revolutionary was it being a shooter, a first person shooter with the type of dynamic it had in the N64 time. Now we got first person shooters everywhere, including the Call of Duty tug of war. But yeah, so that's that. I guess we could probably go into the other superhero stuff real quick because there was the Suicide Squad. I don't think that's a rumor. I think that's real.
No, it's real.
I think that's real.
So Suicide Squad killed Justice League, which outside of like last year it was like, hey, it's a shooter, 4-player thing, and like they were shooting and stuff. And then the last thing they announced was, Batman. Kevin Conroy's last voice acting as Batman is in it. Yeah. But like nothing else has really come out gameplay wise. Yeah. And then a screenshot showed up where it kind of shows the cover page, and boy does that thing look like Marvel's Avengers. And it has a little tab that says Battle Pass. Like straight I didn't even like change the word. It just straight up says Battle Pass. So this game is probably going to be a pay for like extra crap, even though it's gonna come out at $70. And I saw it and went, well, there goes that game. Like, it instantly went from, like, I was still interested in getting it. But, like, of course, again, I don't buy things day one. But still interested in getting it to, like, well, there goes that. It's done. Like, it's just, why are they ruining games with these?
No, and I'm going to go a step forward because I felt like Wonder Woman was going to be the same way. Wonder Woman's taking a huge hit because it doesn't have the movie to rely on. I'm pretty sure it was going to come out at the same time as the movie. They were going to probably try to time it that way, but I did think it was going to have... I think with Marvel Avengers set the tone for a bunch of those games, and some of them, because in real life, I guess, or in the MCU, that was the top of the food chain as far as like superhero. And so a bunch of them was like, yo, we gonna cash out. And then they found out they couldn't.
But Guardians didn't do it.
Guardians didn't do it, but it suffered because of Marvel. And then
they don't see it that way. They just say people didn't buy it. And
Gotham Knights, I think we found out that it wanted to do it, but it saw that and didn't do it. And I think Wonder Woman is probably early on where it doesn't have to, but it's losing its driving force, which is the movie.
I really hope they take their cues from Spider-Man instead and just go for a very solid. This game, and this ties into one of my other topics. This game is too good.
Huh? What game is too good?
No, Wonder Woman needs to be good.
Oh, it needs to be good.
It needs to be top 9. Because, to be honest, if it's bad, like if this game comes out as bad, and the Gotham Knights got what it got and everything, even though I liked it, there is a community that really does like this game, but a lot of people don't. Yeah. A lot of people who don't like it, their reasoning is because you can't be Batman. And if Wonder Woman doesn't do well as well, all these companies, especially because the people who apparently seem to be making decisions are people who don't game, they're just people who look at money. Mm-hmm. All they're going to say is, well, we got money when it was Batman, and we did not get money when it's not Batman. So then everything's just going to be more Batman again. Like Wonder Woman needs to be good so they can venture off into other heroes, but it also needs to be done correctly. It can't just artificially get the numbers because we're afraid of them just constantly doing Batman, Batman, Batman. But it's like, it's not our fault if the only game you're making correct is Batman. It's the same thing for Spider-Man side. It's like, let's just do Spider-Man because that's the thing people praise, and the other ones don't get praise. Well, you didn't do it right. Like, this is why I think Logan should be okay. But it's like, you're Wolverine, when that game comes out, hopefully if they take their cue from like Spider-Man and don't try and go with Battle Pass route.
Is it gonna have Battle Passes?
They're gonna ruin it with Battle Pass route and say, see, people don't like this, they only want to be Spider-Man. And it's like, no, you're generalizing. You can't make crap and then like not realize it's your fault. So that's why Wonder Woman needs to be a good game. Because if it's not, there goes ever getting a Superman game. Because now we can't rely on, like, Gotham Knights didn't do great. And with this Battle Pass image, I don't think Suicide Squad is going to do good at all now. Most people getting it, honestly, is going to be getting it because Kevin Conroy.
It looked like it was going to be like that when they showed that one footage when, like, everybody was shooting and stuff.
Yes.
That's the way it looked to me.
Because I thought this was going to be, like, a very story-driven game, and I was interested to see, like, how do you switch between them, or is it, like, different missions as different ones or something? And then when they showed him shooting, I was already worried then, and it dropped off my list of like must-haves to maybes. And now that it's like, yeah, Battle Pass, it's like, well, there goes that. So now Wonder Woman needs to be the good one. Otherwise, that's it. That's it.
I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna do the same thing.
I don't think so. There's actually rumors that Wonder Woman's going more towards the Nemesis system and stuff, which I think if they do that, it has to be a story-driven, Spider-Man-like, basically Arkham, like it has to, or Shadows of Mordor, I guess would be the best example because I think the team working on it worked on those. But it has to be just a story-driven, solid God of War-ish campaign without all that extra stuff. It could be RPGs with like different gear, but like it can't be on some Battle Pass pay-to-win stuff.
I haven't really kept up with Wonder Woman, like outside of that one initial announcement, whatever show that was, like that was all I knew.
So it was the announcement, and then I think the team that's working on it is the Shadow of Mordor team, the Middle Earth stuff, which that's why everybody's assuming because they're the only ones that ever used the Nemesis system. I don't know if you know what that is, but
yeah, but what people also got to remember is not so much the team, it's who's in charge of the licensing. Like, it's what they want, because they wanted like microtransactions for the Avengers. It was what it was. So,
but I'm hoping because there's no microtransactions of like Spider-Man stuff.
I actually think that's gonna have it. I really do think it is.
Spider-Man 2 is gonna have microtransactions.
I think they're gonna do that with the suits.
Dude, if everything's just gonna microtransactions, it is the end of video games.
Because that would make sense.
Get anything new now.
Like, it doesn't make sense that it doesn't, like, on the fans' perspective, of course they don't want it. But Spider-Man overall, I'm just going off of basically the behavior of PlayStation lately with Jim Ryan. It makes sense that the one thing that you're gonna have to start buying is the suits. That's what I think is gonna happen. If that happens,
that's the end of it. Like, that the game will be trashed. There's no reason to buy any new games anymore. Like, you can't $70 and ask for a Battle Pass. That shit is greedy and stupid. And you're right, that is the direction that it seems to be going. But that shit needs to stop. Like, people need to stop buying stuff. Like, if that's the case, it's
But they were already doing that with some of their $70 games. What was that one game? Well, we know Last of Us Part 1 didn't come with the multiplayer, right? They were still working on that later. But Gran Turismo, that's what it was. Gran Turismo came out 70 and it had microtransactions like the last minute. It was like literally last minute. I think Spider-Man gonna be last minute.
It was 60. Crash Team Racing did that. It was 60.
Yeah.
And all the review copies said you could earn everything in game. And then after release, they were like, "Hey, Battle Pass."
Yeah, that's exactly what they did with Gran Turismo. That's exactly what and it almost killed it overnight too. It really did.
Stop buying games day one. Let like one person. There should be one person who like buys a game day one, like to be like, all right, guys, it's clear. Like that should be it.
Yeah, so I thought that was
gotta be some sort of boycott going on.
That was like really shady to me. The Gran Turismo one was very shady, and it was kind of weird because I don't think too many people didn't harp on it as much as I think that they should have. They just kind of let it come out, and that was the end of it because a lot of people was pretty much done once the hype was over. But it was still the optics of that. It was like everyone did get a review copy, and then they added microtransactions after it. And it's funny because we were talking about on Forspoken and people wanting a review copy of that. It's like, well, what if you do get the review copy and then they make that change after the fact anyway? Because that seemed deliberate to me with the Gran Turismo.
Well, yeah, Crash Team Racing did the exact same thing. So they released it. It was like, you'll be able to get everything in game. Look, here's the review copies. And then right after release, day one patch, it was like, psych, no, you got to buy it.
I think they're gonna do that just with the suits with Spider-Man. I don't think it's gonna be anything else, but games? I don't know.
Like, I don't understand. It's like you see the reviews, you see people get upset. They go, "This is bad. This is bad. This is bad," and then how do they read it and go, "I guess people just don't like this type of topic." Like it's like no, like how I don't understand how they're not. They're just so like they're just not paying attention. It is infuriating.
But we don't know yet. It was just speculation. The only reason, like, I don't think it's going to be an Insomniac call. I think it's going to be a Jim Ryan call. That's what I think it's going to be.
Oh, I hate that guy.
Because what would have made them do that with Gran Turismo all of a sudden? They didn't do it before. And it was just like all of a sudden they did it. But the way that they did it was so shady to me. I was just like, yo, after the reviews and all of that, they just introduced it in a patch update or something. It was just like, here it is. It's like, really? So that's what I think. I'm not going to worry about it too much because you still, at the end of the day, just put your money where your mouth is, really, you know? And, like, for certain games, I was just like, okay, this game is probably just not for me. But yeah, I'll still play Spider-Man 2, no problem. It's not really my most anticipated. I think it's your most anticipated, but...
it's up there. It's one of my top 3 anticipated.
Yeah,
because I mean, Jedi Survivor and Hogwarts Legacy are also up there. So
okay,
those are my 3 most anticipated, and the other one's already out. Persona 4 Golden.
Persona 4 Golden. So Persona, I guess you mentioned, or you wanted to mention that it was like Persona 3 and Persona 4 is like $20 each. Is this on the PlayStation Store?
On all of them, on everything, PlayStation, Nintendo, PC. So apparently you were always able to get Persona 4 Golden on PC.
Mm-hmm.
Like through Steam and stuff like that. Like it was already on there.
Yeah.
But then now it's on like all the platforms, and Persona 3 Portable is on all the platforms, and on Steam it was already $20. And rather than just like, hey, we're remastering $40 for everything, or $70 like full price, they decided to make both.
That would have been rough trying to sell the third one, like especially the third one.
70,
that would have been rough. But
yeah, they're both $20, and you can get them together for $40. So I think it's a very fair price for them with how popular they are and how much Persona 5 blew up. Yeah, so I'll be picking them up soon. I haven't picked them up yet. I don't want to buy it until I know I have time to actually play it. I want to buy it and then it just sits. And then, like, by the time I get to it, it's like, hey, it's on sale, right? Like, might as well sale money.
That's how a lot of my stuff was from my Black Fridays. So that's why I'm just, like, really just, like, I'm going through the backlog stuff, playing old games as old as Alan Wake, right? But with Persona, this actually... Yeah, go ahead real quick.
I was going to say, when I'm ready to play Persona 4 Golden, if it's not on sale, I mean, $20 is still fine. I'll get it. It's all good. It's just I know I'm not, like, ready to start it yet.
I'm getting the tar beat out of me on stage, or not on stage, on the camera. For anybody who's looking at this footage, it was mainly because early on I really was not used to using. If you notice, the entire time I'm never using the shield. That was my biggest problem. I never used the shield this entire hour.
Well, you used it to punch. You used the shield to punch.
That don't even do that count. That don't count. That's part of the offense. But
Yeah.
like in my later footage and in later episodes, you can see me use the shield very well, and so I'm a lot better. But
Yeah.
I couldn't.
So my when I was doing this fight and everything, and early on, that was one of my issues. And then the other issue. So I played like Gotham Knights a lot right before playing this, and pretty much the X and the circle button for PlayStation are reverse for those two games. So every time I was going to dodge, I'm like quickly hitting like X, and that's not how you dodge, or circle, and it's like that's not how you dodge at all. So that's why I kept getting hit, because like the controls were like stuck. Oh man, it took me so long to like break out of that habit.
I was just not ready for the controls yet, but I was still in the first like couple hours of the game at this point.
Bro,
still
they hit
fantastic.
You with this fight quickly, it was great.
Yeah, they really did.
Look at you throwing that at Mr. Projectile.
I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know what I was doing.
Just gotta do stuff.
Because I wasn't using the shield at all. Like,
I can't tell you. So you know how the axe freezes stuff, right?
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how sad I get when I run into an area and there just seems to be an enemy, and I just throw the axe at it, and it just pops off of him. And I was like, well, dang, all right, let's get serious now. So, like, that's how I judge how difficult this area is about to be. Can I freeze the first enemy?
I guess to get back on topic real quick, the Persona stuff probably leads into some of the next topics, which is more about Xbox. Because Persona 3 and 4 is also going to be in day one on Game Pass for anybody who has it. So that's good for them. But I guess some of the other topics that was happening with them pertain to them firing a bunch of people, and I guess Google as well. I don't know too much about the Google because I guess
Google fired 12,000 employees, which is roughly 6% of their workforce.
So I guess we could mention real quick, because I don't know how much time, we don't need to spend too much time on it because it was dead on arrival anyway, but Google Stadia is now officially no more as of this past week.
So real quick, a couple days ago, it officially died. And if you Google it, it's just a Stadia service is no longer available. Thanks for playing. But those, remember we talked about those, that guy who got 6,000 hours into Red Dead Redemption on Google Stadia. Well, one, the main thing is Rockstar did have a way to transfer his save file. They put it in like a cloud, and then whatever system he goes to play it on, he'll be able to just download it to that and keep going. So he doesn't lose all 6,000. But then they also sent him, and I'm sure this was marketing of like, hey, look at the things you can now buy. But they sent him like a gift box of like a bunch of Red Dead Redemption 2 stuff. With like shirts, vests, like booklets, and like doodads and candles and all this little stuff. But
it was still good for them to like refund everybody and stuff. I know that was more for the PR. It still looks bad because I don't think anybody is going to want to like invest in any of their future projects. It's not really a gaming thing. It just seems like anything new coming from Google that's brand new, I don't think a lot of people have faith in it. And so that's probably the only thing.
10,000 people are being laid off from Microsoft.
I had to push back on the bad narrative on that, because what people don't know, because somebody, like, I remember when somebody tried to console war with me in my inbox over something like this, and I was kind of annoyed because I'm like, you didn't mention that they actually grow by 20,000 employees per year. That's something people don't know. And this past year, 2022, or I think it might have been 21, they actually grew a little bit larger probably than what they normally do, because they actually hired like 40,000 employees. And so it's like, well, naturally you might want to, even that out after a year's worth of time if it was too many. It was like, for you to bring on like 40,000, it's like, you would probably bring out like 10, take out like 10. And because I think on here you said, what should they do instead? I don't think they should have done anything else instead. This is exactly what they were supposed to do. Heads need to roll. Heads need to roll over there. I believe that. And it's not just because some people would say It's the management. And I'll push back on that. They rolled some heads on management. They got rid of that Bobby chick. I forgot her name. Yeah. Her name was Bobby, right? And I think I forgot her last name, but I remember the excuse was she had a family emergency. We all know what that was. That's their PR. No, her head rolled. Let's keep it a buck. Her head rolled, and now the three people that took over, they rolling some other heads, and they probably should. I can understand certain things about Halo not being as good at certain points, but it's like, okay, now you're talking about close to almost a year and a half, 2 years after the release, and you couldn't really get the battle pass part right. The embarrassing part where you have like the people who don't wash the back of their ears being able to somehow get co-op from their basement. And I know I say that like we disrespect certain gamers sometimes. Like some of the PC community is really good at what they do, but how does somebody somehow figure out split screen co-op, arguably from wherever they are, for free, right? And just release it to the public, and then the main people had to say, well, we have to just cancel it all together after they promised it. I don't feel like split screen co-op should really be that much to harp over, because everybody is just online. You play by yourself.
Not everybody.
No, I mean like I was talking about like if you, because you still play online. I was saying for people who play online, and like when the thing that I mentioned before was like where you had this whole group of people who did LAN parties, and the whole point of the or landline parties or whatever, however they said it, the whole point was to go get a bunch of screens and line them all up in the rooms. I'm like, well, technically you could still do that. Like, you could still do that.
But we talked about it was the households with like siblings and stuff like that. There was a lot of them who were like, oh yeah, I bought this game because I thought I had split screen co-op, and it didn't. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah. But at the same time, like if you couldn't do it and you promised it, and it's kind of like that's kind of bad. I don't know how many, like the Marvel Avengers thing is a little bad too, because did they officially promise that they was gonna have like a whole bunch of people, like from, or at least that, I know it was leaked, but I don't know if they officially promised. If they officially promised it, then that's probably bad.
The only promised people were Black Panther, Hawkeye, and Spider-Man.
Okay.
That was it. Then they did release those three, and I think they released something else. I don't remember, but I think Winter Soldier they just randomly released. But yeah, no. So what I was saying when I said what they could have done, or what I would like to see them do sometimes. So one, I would never like. So part of me is always like, I never want to see people lose their job, right? But like also at the same time, yeah, if you couldn't get this game working, then you don't need to be working there.
Yeah.
What I would like to see, and even though I don't have an Xbox and everything, one of the whole things people always talk about, like exclusives, and things like that. And I think like with like certain teams, I would like to see if they could like make some things, like even if it's like on like, you know, day one on like Xbox Game Pass, but it's like an exclusive Xbox game under Xbox, like making just extra kind of the more experimental stuff, or like. For example, there was an old game that I've always thought looked cool that never got to come out. It was Scalebound. If you remember that one, it's like you could have like had like a team of people. Like your job now is to make Scalebound, right?
But I got to push back on that a little bit, because I don't think it's fair to them, because they did put out the experimental stuff. They just didn't put out the big game, and so because they didn't put out the big game, the experimental stuff died. Because everybody is on the bandwagon. Because As Dusk Falls is more of like the game that's like the movie-ish driven type stuff, similar to like those other games like House of, I forgot what it's called, but it's similar to those. And that game was on, that game was on Xbox. It didn't release anywhere else, and then it went ahead to go win an award at the Game Awards. It wasn't Game of the Year, but it won an award, right?
Well, you have to fill me in on this stuff. Like, it's like, because all I hear all the time is, because I don't play Xbox, so all I hear all the time is like, there's no exclusive.
That's the narrative, because people just talking bandwagon stuff and fanboy stuff, but they don't even know what they talking about. because
Okay,
one of their games won at the Game Awards. That you can't play that nowhere else. The other experimental game that came out was Scorn. That was the one where it looked like they was like freaky aliens doing their stuff. That was another experimental niche game. I felt like that was way more experimental than anything else.
Yeah.
That Pentiment, if you look at Pentiment, it's like that's definitely niche. Like that's niche. But there were some people who praised that. That was something that people like. Tunic debuted there. It went multiplayer, but it debuted there. That was more of a Zelda-looking niche dungeon crawler-ish old school Zelda game. They don't get credit because Starfield didn't come out. That's the issue.
So then, where's the narrative coming from? Because I know, like, the PlayStation side of just talking crap, but like I've heard it also from like an Xbox side as well of saying
because everybody's only paying attention to the big game because everybody's bandwagon. They all bandwagon. Those games came out. How many games was that? That's 3. That was 2022. But because it wasn't Redfall and because it wasn't Starfield, it don't count. So everybody else, you ain't got no games. They put out 3 of them and one of them won an award. It didn't count. It don't count because it's Xbox and everybody hates Xbox. But those were niche games, each one different from the next. They weren't, and none of them were shooters. Or one of them, well, technically Scorn has shooter elements, but it was more of a puzzle-ish game. Okay. But the rest of them, that was not the same type of thing. But so that's why I will push back, because I used to think that it was really ignorant that people were saying that. I'm like, but these games did come out.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Cause it's like I would hear it, and I would hear it from both sides, and then I'll have an Xbox, and there was never a reason to like look it up. I wasn't gonna play them anyways.
That was was just the narrative. So the big release would have been Starfield and Redfall. And
I don't think everything needs to be a big release. Like when I think of when I say like PlayStation has like exclusives and everything, yes, of course you have like God of War, Horizon, things like that. But like it wasn't always that. Like if you go back, right, it was just like a bunch of random little stuff that would go. That's what makes me like, look at all this variety we used to have. So it's good to hear that that is on the Xbox side. That's a narrative that does need to die out.
Yeah, it's just those games don't count because the big releases weren't there. Because everybody follows the big releases. So the second that Starfield and Redfall got pushed into 2023, immediately Xbox got destroyed. And like the very next month, Scorn had came out. It was so weird. It was just like, well... And As Dusk Falls. I think As Dusk Falls released at the same time as Stray. Stray got the hype. As Dusk Falls didn't. That was just what happened. And then the narrative was just like, well...
Stray was the Game of the Year contender, so, calm down there. I get your point.
That was kind of bad to me. That looked bad to me as a gaming in whole. I don't want to crap on Stray, but that looked bad as a gaming in whole. That look bad as game, because to me it was a meme. Didn't nobody really like, everybody you saw, they didn't play it. They showed pictures of their cats like looking at them play like the beginning of it. But if you go back, I don't even think a lot of people went all the way through it like that. That was more of a meme thing.
People played it. More than 4 million people.
Plus, you got to also look at, because we got your Pokemon on the list for a topic later. Stray got there before one of the Pokemon games.
Yeah.
It got there before Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus didn't get mentioned at all. That should, for a Pokemon fan, despite what Scarlet and Violet was, the fact that Stray was there before Legends Arceus should rub a few people wrong. I feel like it should. Also
say, Stray had, on a day of its release, had almost 63,000 concurrent players on Steam.
Because it was all bandwagon. That's the first day. That's day one. That was all bandwagon. How many of those people actually finished it? That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm telling you, I'm turning heel on this podcast today. Hit the like button. I think we're at the halfway point, because I think we actually passed it, because the halfway point was supposed to be the remnant footage. I think the remnant footage is over. So During the halfway point, I usually talk about some of the free games for the unofficial sponsor, which is Epic Games. But I'm also going to mention a few sales that I saw that I bookmarked as well as wrote down. But for the Epic Games, from now into January 25th, one of the games you can get was called Ep Story Typing Chronicles. I think I said that right. And then from January 26th to February 2nd, there was the game called Adios, and then a game called Hell is Other. Interesting. So those are the free games coming from Epic. And then there was a couple sales. There was one other sale that I saw that was interesting directly under Epic, and that was Marvel's Midnight Suns was $35.99 under there. I believe that's still new. And I was like, I didn't expect that one to drop that fast on PC, but it did.
Yeah.
So if you was on the fence, I mean, they almost cut it in half. And then another one that I saw, Yakuza 0 is $4.99 on Steam. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, the Super Edition, I think that's the complete version, is $11.98 on the Xbox store. There's a game called Siren, which was originally from the PS2 era, that's on PSN. Not to be confused with the movie, but there is a movie called Siren as well. That's like a spin-off of the VHS films. But this was one of the older games that's on the PSN store. That's like a horror game. $4.99 on PSN. I think the Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. I saw that multi-plat is $10 on Amazon. If anybody's interested in that. Interesting little game, the Nickelodeon Kart Racers. I just saw some of these. I was like, maybe somebody might care. That's $8.99 on Nintendo's not Nintendo. Nickelodeon Kart Racers on Xbox is $8.99 at Best Buy. If you want that. Sleeping Dogs is $4.49 on the PSN store. If you want
Worth
that.
it. That's a great game.
And then I mentioned Yakuza. Titanfall 2 Ultimate Edition is $2.99 on Steam and $4.49 on Amazon for Xbox. I do highly recommend that you play that. That was like one of the best shooters, and it went on to be like the developers went on to do Apex Legends, and we see how that blew up, right? World War Z under Xbox is $5.49 from Amazon. I think that might have been all of them. As far as, I think that is all of them. So yeah, a bunch of different deals. And then again, for Epic Games, you don't need to like have any, money or whatever. You can just create an account and you can add everything. And even if you don't have a way to play them, you can add everything now. And then once you do have a way to play, like with the Steam Deck or maybe another PC, however you do it, you have this plethora of a library, basically. Like I said, I got over like 200 games there, and I've only paid for like less than 10, literally. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to mention that. And then real quick on more Xbox news. I don't know if this is really news. It was just something that I like found out about really later on that I didn't really think about before. But if you remember that Logitech handheld, that was a little expensive. What I found out is you can stream. We already knew you could stream Xbox from it, but you can also stream PS5 from it as well. So that one system, you can technically have access to both consoles through streaming, like if you're on the go, basically, in that one device. So I thought that was interesting for anybody who might actually still want to, have it. I don't know who else is really going to have it, but you technically have the ability to do that. Maybe the Steam Deck might catch up to that later on. I think you probably will be able to use the Steam Deck once the PlayStation has its like app, I guess. I don't know that. I just know you could do it with that one. You probably could do it with the Steam Deck as well, but I thought that was interesting. Another couple things I could probably like ramble through real quick because there was really, really quick stuff that I don't think you need to spend too much time on. But Callisto Protocol, I thought this was interesting, but they just added a patch update which allows for a new game plus. So you can play New Game Plus now, you know, a month late. Should have been at launch, but at least they have it now.
One, they're not the only game to do that, though.
Yeah.
There was another game that released a New Game Plus after.
I
don't remember what it was.
There's plenty of them that's done it. But I just thought I saw that and I would mention it. There's also the announcement that the first Remnant from the Ashes game is coming to the Switch. I don't know what the release date is, but that's going to be on the Switch. And then shout out to the Switch because I think they also reached over 120 million units sold, which that's pretty good. So they passed the PS4 as far as like all-time sales, because I think the PS4 was like really high, but they passed that. And so they're going on and on. Big game that I'm looking forward to, that I'm following, Black Myth Wukong is now getting a release window. So that's going to be the summer of 2024 is what they're aiming for now. So they gave it enough time, I guess. I didn't think it was going to come out this year, even though I had made that one video. But yeah, so I think that's legit.
It's make that, or you think it's going to get pushed back again?
No, I think they gave them a lot of time because that's technically over a year, and they were already showing a lot of gameplay and stuff. So they've given it some time. So I think that's going to be. I think it really is going to get a hard release date, probably at early 2024, and it will still be during the summer. That's what I'm thinking. You could find something else out. So yeah, those are the big newses. And then I saw some gameplay footage. There was more gameplay footage shown for a little game that everybody forgot about called Chia. I didn't want everybody to forget. I tried to revive it. It didn't work. Or at least they just didn't watch my video. But yeah, so they released more gameplay footage. It was more of what you've already seen. It was just like the same girl, you know, running around in her world, and then she can like possess the stuff and do all her things. And then they showed some more footage on the game Wolong Destiny, which looks a lot like Sekiro as another Souls game. So a lot of Souls games is coming out recently. And that one's right around the corner. I think that's coming out in March. So they showed more gameplay footage of that. It still looks just as good as it was looking before. So I'm very excited to see that come out in March. I think that's most of the gaming news stuff. Let's just look at it. Yeah, as far as news. And then I think you just wanted to mention, I don't know if you had anything else to say outside of Pokemon, but was there another thing?
So mainly it was just the Pokemon. Yeah, it was just the Pokemon thing.
Okay. So you're saying two things that would make the Pokemon games better?
Yeah, so I was reading more about the Nemesis system. For those that don't know what that was, so in Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor, the Lord of the Rings games that came out, they had this thing called a Nemesis system where basically like the bosses will sometimes get tougher, right? Because they like won. So like you'll go and fight somebody who was like a soldier, and then the next time you encounter them, they're like a captain now because they beat the main villain, right? Or you may like fight somebody and then you like cut off their arm or something, and then later they come back with like a robotic arm and they're like helping another villain because they're trying to get their revenge on you. So it's like they remember you and they always come back trying to like be worse and everything. which can sometimes make like some of the later game stuff either like really, really hard because now this person is like learning from you, uh, and things like that. So like, I feel like on a later Pokemon game, if they can figure out a way to implement this a little bit, right? Where like maybe your rival, like you beat him, so that the rival goes and gets like starts trading Pokemon to counteract like your tough one, so it forces you to constantly like do better. Like if he just got destroyed by a dragon type Pokemon, then he's gonna come back at you with ice and fairy types now, uh, to like really stand up against you. Or if like gym battles typically had like 3 Pokemon that they would
Yeah.
always do, and since the new games like Scarlet and Violet, you could tackle things in pretty much any order. It could really make like an individual sort of game thing where it's like if you go to like a grass gym first and you wipe the floor with them with a fire type, and then you head over to like I don't know a flying uh gym, the flying gym will now make sure to have 1 Pokemon that's flying water to counteract that like fire type and everything. So like the gyms, because they've portrayed the story where all the gym leaders like talk to each other and they
Yeah.
know stuff, so they can like do something where like each gym will have like a 4th Pokemon where it's like they have their 3 standard and then 1 that's like to counteract something that you heavily use and everything, so you can't use it again and everything. Like they're just building upon themselves to really make that last one harder because Pokemon games have been kind of getting too easy and everything.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's a case where it's just like, well, now you understand strategy better. It's like, no, if you really compare it to some of the older ones where it's like, when you go through a cave, you had to survive. Where like now it's like, there's like 3 different people inside the cave that'll just heal your Pokemon to full and give you back all your moves. And then there's the person outside of the cave waiting as well. Where it was
Hmm.
just like, you was on the struggle bus before. Like you start running out of moves, you got to use your Pokemon that you don't want to use because they're not good at the cave. But like you're running out of stuff to do. I think it's even easier in terms of like now in games, you can just access your Pokebox and switch out Pokemon as you please and everything. So you could just like easily switch to a new one in the middle. Where like before you had to get to a Pokemon Center. That was the time you could switch. You can't switch in between them. Figure it out. As you go. And I feel like they're becoming too easy. That might be a way to bring back a challenge. The other thing is voice acting. I've been seeing videos where people have been doing voiceovers for some of the lines in Scarlet and Violet, and I feel like that might be a way to go. If like, even if they implement it slowly, where it's you're not like maybe everybody doesn't have a voice line, you talk, but all the story related stuff does. Since it's going to be a cutscene anyways, they can voice over it, and I feel like that'll be because RPGs have been doing that more of voice acting, and I think that'll be 2 ways to really step up games.
All right. Okay. So this is where I turn heel again. I've been turning heel the whole time. I only think there's one thing that they would need to do to make the Pokemon games better. And that's basically the fans don't buy the next one. Literally. Literally. The fans
That's
have
not going to
to
happen.
the fans have to just not buy the next one. And then it will get forced to be better. Because in reality what we see is that they kind of just do the bare minimum. That's what it looks like. It looks like they do the bare minimum and they kind of look like they get away with it. This last one is proof of it. The last one was really proof of it a little bit.
I wouldn't
And
call this last one necessarily bare minimum. Like they tried new stuff. It was just they
but
didn't give themselves the time to do it correctly. That's the problem.
yeah, and but the new thing, the way it looked from the outside in, it was like, didn't you take the same ones and you just made them sparkly? Isn't that what they did?
What? Oh, I mean, no, that was their new mechanic, for like changing types. But I mean the whole
Yeah.
like the really embracing the like you can tackle it in any order you want. The open world
Uh,
thing, everything's leveling up as you level up and you go through for the most part. But then there's like just high level Pokemon walking around. Like they implemented something like new where it really
yeah.
wasn't just like a rinse and repeat. Like I think a better example too is like when they did Pokemon Sun and Moon. So they switched up the gym battles and did the little goof gym trials. As childish as those were, it was like not just the previous game, but in a new location. Like it was something new, right? They're throwing in some new-ish mechanic, and I think the big thing was the open world thing. They just didn't give themselves enough time to actually do it right. Now, that being said, though, I don't really like the terrestrializing thing, the crystal shiny stuff. I'm not a big fan of it.
I just think that it would set a certain tone from the player base. Like, we want better in a way if they just stop buying just for.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I just looked at, because the optics of it look like they could do better, but why do it? Because we already made our sales and we're gonna keep making the sales. That's how it looked to me. But that's why I would say, like, in order to make it better, you have to just stop buying one of them. That, like, I also had to go there with the player base as well a little bit, because the one thing that I saw that was kind of really cringy was the excuses that was made for certain things, like from the core player base. I was just like, and
Like
that
what?
excuse wouldn't have been made for for the performance and stuff. Like, that excuse wouldn't have been made for any other game. Like what people are doing to Forspoken right now. Like, Forspoken ain't getting that break. It's not getting that break, and it's only because it's a new franchise. But Pokemon got that pass, and it's like mainly because people are thinking that they're gonna hide. They're hiding its performance. Basically, that's what people are thinking, and that it's not as good or whatever. And it's like, Pokemon clearly has got that pass. No one questioned it at all. Before Spoken, despite having a demo, right? They've already trashed it. I trashed it based on what I've played. But people are already trashing it now because they didn't get certain people weren't able to review it and stuff. Pokemon obviously got that pass. That's where I look at it. It's like, that's kind of, because they get those type of passes, like, no, they're not gonna make it better. Why would they make it better? It'll be similar to like the Madden thing, when people talk about Madden and FIFA. Yeah. I feel like it's in that. I think it's in that type of category now, because they're gonna buy it no matter what. So
that is true. Although I will say, as a person who plays like of them, simply that I would, Pokemon's not as what Madden and FIFA does, but none of them are gonna get a fix because the fan bases do treat them like they all are done the same way. So I see what you're saying, but yeah, I wouldn't put it as bad.
So there was the WWE 2K20 situation that forced them to, I guess, like, take a year off.
Yeah.
But how much better was 2K22 to 2K20? It didn't seem like they changed it. They just kind of worked on it, right?
Yeah. It had a bunch of, like, I played it, and it had a lot of positives. Like, I think the main thing was that it worked. Like, that was the main thing, is that it worked. But on PS4, people were still getting crashes. My brother was getting a lot of crashes on PS4. Like, it would just stop working or stop doing stuff. I didn't run into those crashes on PS5. But again, one of their biggest issues, which is where I'm already leading, because they're already advertising for the next one. And it looks like it's going to hit that WrestleMania window. But where I'm not, like, looking forward to it at all, whereas this type of stuff, is, again, most of their effort and money went into the mode that required microtransactions, which I didn't open once. Their little, like, buy cards, buy all this other stuff. I didn't open that mode at all. And it's not something that needs to be there, and they're really pushing it. So I feel like this next one's going to do the same thing. To the point where they were making certain characters that you can play as, where it'll be like older versions of certain characters that are really well done, entrance and everything. It's exclusive specifically to that mode. And you can only see it if you play it through that mode. It's like, nope, I'm not giving you microtransaction money. But yeah, everything needs to, like, take some time, especially if they, like, are frequent release stuff, like Madden and Pokemon and all of those. They all need to stop releasing yearly.
I'm heel turning this podcast. I feel like the same energy that Microsoft had towards like the layoffs is the same energy we need to have towards Game Freak. I'm heel turning. I'm heel turning this episode. I think that energy, that's definitely warranted, but it's not going to happen because the fan base still bought no matter what. They clearly didn't.
I thought Scarlet was still a good game. It still had its issues.
Yeah.
And I do think that does need to be addressed in terms of the graphical stuff. Like, that does need to be addressed. That some of these new Pokemon was trash. But that it was fine.
Speaking of heel turning, go ahead and hit that dislike button and the like button. Hit them both. They cancel each other out. I don't know. Hit one of them. I don't care. Because I guess we can move on from that for a split second and cover a non-gaming topic just for a split second because it doesn't really have to last too long. Because speaking of the heel turn, we got a small update from WWE and Vince McMahon. And I thought this is kind of funny because people are now suing Vince McMahon to block him from taking control, which reminds me of like the whole Xbox and Activision deal thing. So maybe something similar is happening there. I don't know how far they can go with that, but that's the update. They're trying to sue him to stop him from taking control. I would imagine you support this lawsuit.
Yep, I sure do. Like, he needs to stay out of there.
How do you sue him to stop? I don't even know I don't know how the lawyer jargon is, but how do you sue him to stop him from doing that though? If he owns like multiple shares or whatever.
So I think the owning the shares and everything, I don't know how that works because I'm not a business person, but I imagine the suing thing could have been like the way other people were like purchasing like stocks or shares or all these other decisions made were based off of the fact that he was gone, and then in a moment he undid it, which could have been like people are like, yo, I only invested specifically because of this. Him being back ruins my investment, give me my money back. Like, it could be something along those lines.
I could see that.
Where they're like, well, then he needs to stay away.
Yeah, it's funny. I just thought it was kind of funny because.
Plus, I mean, like, it also ruins for terms of stocks and shares. Like, even if he has like the multiple shares, I don't know. Again, I don't know how this stuff works.
Yeah.
But, like, I can imagine if you just walk up in there and like we're selling it, and it's just like, well, we didn't agree to this stuff, so then now people are like, well, let's bounce or buy me out of this or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so
wild.
It's so comical to me. I'm just kind of watching it unfold. I don't know. That might be the last big update unless we just find out he literally can't be in control for some reason. Then maybe we'll talk about that. But yeah, that's the next big update. I do want to mention real quick, wrestling related. RIP to Jay Briscoe. He had a car accident. Very good wrestler. I was very, very much entertained with his ROH championship run. I think he was like the longest reigning champion at one point. And he was like undefeated for a long time until he lost to I forgot his name again. What's his name, bro?
Lethal?
Yeah, Lethal. Lethal beat him and became undisputed champion, holding both titles at one point. I remember that whole setup, and I thought that was like peak ROH at one point. And he was a part of it. So yeah, I just wanted to say RIP to him. Did you want to say something about it real quick?
No, I think you covered it, man. Rest in peace. Really sad.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers to his family and everything. Like, it must be rough.
Yeah.
Real sad. Wrestling community shared a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Big deal. And I guess we can move on from that. I got a couple other announcements that's non-gaming related, I guess. So the horror movie that I mentioned before, Megan, is now officially getting a sequel, and they put a hard date down for this. So they expect this to come out January 17th, 2025. And so that's the date. I don't know why. It kind of seems like random, but
that is a lot of time.
Yeah, they still got plenty of time, but it seems pretty random that they put that hard date. I could see if they said like 2025 window maybe, but no, they put it's January 17th.
Well, then again, though, so
Yeah,
because of how well the first Megan did, right?
yeah,
They can imagine that people might flock to go see the second Megan because they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I know this movie will probably be good. So it can
yeah.
probably deter other companies from setting their movie January because
Early
they don't
on.
want to compete with Megan. Yeah. So it's like almost like we like call dibs on this like week. So don't
Yeah.
release your movie during this week. Uh,
Somebody might challenge him. We'll see. There's
yeah.
always like 8 movies that come out in a month. It'd be crazy how many movies come out at the same time, but
True.
somebody would challenge him. And then also, I guess the movie Scream 6 got a new trailer. I'm mentioning it because I'm still a fan of Scream overall, even though I prefer the older stuff. I didn't see it though. I didn't see the trailer.
So I watched the trailer.
Yeah.
It looks good, but like I don't know. The Ghostface kept like referring to himself as like the new like Ghostface or something like
Yeah.
that, which leads me to believe he's not new. Like, cause
Uh,
I don't know. It just they hammered that into much. Just like almost like, I ain't no Ghostface. Like I do things different. I'm the new one. Like in a way, like that's how it came off. Then
but
I
what
feel
I
like
was
that's gonna
seeing
be a
from the
major
other
deal. Like, oh, he's not new.
the other films though, they kind of iterated on this that pretty much even within the show, anybody who calls themselves being somewhat psychotic or whatever can just go get a knife and just go get the suit and then do the same thing.
Well,
And that
yeah,
was kind of what they were doing. So it's almost like it could be endless if they wanted it to be, kinda, because like when some of them revealed in the past, like I remember one of them, it was a stretch. I think it was Scream 4. Because I don't think I see 5. I may have seen 5. But the fourth one, they were just like, oh, she's the cousin. It was like, she who? Like, who is this? It was old girl's cousin, I guess. I was like, okay, so anybody could just go put on a suit. Just because in the show, I believe it was the movie called Stab, like within it. And then in real life, in the movie, somebody put on that suit and they actually had a real knife while everybody else was just cosplaying with a fake one. But then the real Scream killer had the knife and he was the one who was actually killing people. But then like they will reveal it and it's like, oh, is this guy or is that guy? But it wasn't really that big of a deal until the third one when it was supposed to be like the brother, I guess. It was just like, okay, so that makes it a little bit more like dramatic. But then before and after it was just like, oh, just somebody who put on the suit. I'm like, all right, I guess. But
they make it scarier, I guess.
yeah, but hopefully the franchise does better than the Halloween franchise, because the Halloween franchise kind of just died hard. Like, I know it was like this is their conclusion and stuff, but it kind of just it didn't go out with a bang. Basically,
Evil dies tonight.
yeah, it didn't go out with a bang. So yeah,
Power Rangers. They got a 30th anniversary special coming up on Netflix.
okay.
In the end of April, something like that. Sometime around in April. April 19th. They're gonna be doing like a 30th anniversary video, and then I know that they're doing a storyline where like Rocky, Zach, Billy, Kat, and then they showed Adam and Aisha are all coming back. So it's somebody I saw point out, which was kind of nice. It was that like Zach represents season 1, Rocky represents season 2, Kat represents season 3, and then Billy was the one that was there for all of them. And then they got
I was gonna say like ain't all of them like the first 3 seasons though. Yeah.
And then they got a new girl to represent Trini's daughter. And
I'm gonna be honest, that's still kind of cringy to me. It's kind of cringy, but I accept it. I guess
it's interesting that they did it with also Aisha there, but I think somebody pointed out it's like she represents like the future of the franchise, like the MMPR lives on sort of thing. I'm interested to see where it goes. And then what I will say is from all the stuff that you see, people pointed out that like mechanically like Space Patrol Delta, the SPD season, was supposed to take place in like 2025. So like they're supposed to be setting up like a Space Patrol Alpha, and Aisha and Adam are wearing the uniforms that say SPA.
Hmm.
Like so they're the Space Patrol Alpha. So I would say with like all the stuff to do, they also announced the new suits, which the suits look okay. I feel like there's something missing. If you see them, there's something like missing on like the chest part. It's like just a solid color, and I feel like there's just something there that's missing. But the most people become their same color, except the Red Ranger is moving up to being like the mentor of the team. He has
Yeah.
kind of like a tan color, and then the Pink Ranger is becoming the Red Ranger. So it'll be the first season where, for the full season, the Red Ranger's woman, which a lot of fans have been like calling for. So I will say with like everything that they've done with these seasons, with the representation, the Red Ranger girl, the continuing season, the doing slightly original suits, the slightly like original story that they're like, or not slightly, the original story that they're doing, the bringing back Billy for the 30th anniversary. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that like fans have been like asking for, like different parts of the community, and they're just like, okay. The people were really talking about that whole like we got to get Space Patrol Delta set up, and they were like as soon as I saw that I was like this needs to be a thing, boom, the following week you see the SPA uniform. So it's like they're really like they are listening to different parts of the fan base. They're just like, all right, like ideas that are thrown out, like you should do this. They're like it's considered, which is interesting. And I heard they're going to be working on the movie soon. That's supposed to come out. Like there's a movie, another one. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, they're moving forward. But the 30th anniversary special will be happening there. Original Pink Ranger, Amy Jo Johnson, Kimberly, she's not coming back. Uh, and this was filmed before JDF's passing, but he's also not coming back for it.
Hmm.
Kimberly said it was like pretty much didn't pay her enough, and Austin St. John's not coming back. He didn't say anything, but he was dealing with his legal stuff with the tax thing. Kimberly
Yeah.
said they didn't pay her enough, basically, and JDF had already said he wasn't going to come back, and he was focusing on Legend of the White Dragon.
It always seems odd when they say that because it also implies everybody else took a lower pay.
Yeah.
It looked like that. So, because I remember that was a.
say, I don't know if it's necessarily a lower pay. Sometimes I feel like some of them, it is probably just like they needed the money, they needed a lower pay. I do feel like sometimes some of them would just be like, I miss it, it's for the fans, why not? Or
But at the
like,
same time, she actually like I don't want to throw everybody else under the bus, but she actually acts
and direct. She directs a lot of stuff.
While everybody else is like kind of just showing up for the Power Ranger thing only.
Yep.
Like that's kind of another thing.
That's what I would say. Like I met Walter Jones, Zach. I met him at a convention recently, but this was like after it was announced that he was already returning. So I feel like if people hear you're returning to this, and then you're like, I'm at all these conventions, more people are probably going to show up because they're going to hopefully hear spoilers for like what's about to happen or something. So I feel like, because like if you think about it, it is kind of like all these seasons, like 25th anniversary, all this other stuff, and you just don't hear nothing about Zach coming back. Adam's come back before and everything. You just don't hear nothing, and then it's like 30th anniversary, and he's like, I'm coming back. Then all of a sudden he's at like 8 different conventions. Like coming up, he did a podcast with Austin St. John, all this other stuff. So, yeah, I feel like that's part of it. It's just like, yeah, let me get this bag real quick.
Yeah,
and it's all connected together. But yeah, it's and then I can imagine again like a case like with Billy coming back. Even if he did just take the lower pay. Like, on top of that, there's been constant, like, fans. It's like, he needs to come back. He needs to come back. He needs to come back.
He did used to direct for Power Rangers, though, right? Wasn't he a director at some point? I don't know if he was head director, but I know he directed at some point.
He directed, I think, a couple episodes. But I feel like his coming back is partly, like, for the fans. Like, they've been asking. Things like that. Because, like, another one, for example, Adam coming back. Johnny Young Bosch. He does not need it. Like, at all. He's another one that's really
voice actor. Yeah, he's a really good voice
like
actor.
pretty much any anime, like he's done a voice in it. And they just announced Trigun, one of the popular animes, is coming back for a season. Mm-hmm. He's the lead actor in that, and he was the lead actor before. So he announced, yeah, I'm coming back for that too, and he's doing the main voice again. And he's now the voice of Broly
Wow.
in Dragon Ball Super, because they're not using Vic anymore because of all the stuff he did. So yeah, he's now the voice of Broly moving forward, and he did it in Superhero.
Yeah. I think the only thing I was gonna probably mention, just for me, I still haven't tried to buy the Dragon Zord from Hasbro. I don't know if I'm ever gonna actually do it, but I did think it was interesting. Hasbro is still doing their remasters of the figures, but with Spider-Man, they didn't call that a remaster, despite it actually being a remaster, because they also did Spider-Man figures, and they did one for the new Spider-Man 2 game that's coming up. However, he's wearing the same suit that he was wearing from the first game, because that's all you shown. But they had already came out with that first suit in the like as a figure before, and it was like, I was looking at it, I was like, this is like exactly the same. And like they only announced on the Peter Parker suit. They haven't done Miles Morales yet, but Miles Morales, I can imagine from all the promotional material, we've only seen the same suit anyway. So it's like, well, that's still the same thing, but they have it under the package Spider-Man 2. And for anybody that wanted, I think it's $34.99. So they upcharging on it too. Because I think the old one was like in the 20s. Yeah, I'm like, what? It was like in the $20 range before, like $22 or something. So it's $34.99 for that Spider-Man suit, Peter Parker suit game, action figure. So I was like, all right. So whoever want that, more power to you.
So one other thing, I don't know how much detail, so I probably won't go into detail for this. But I will say for the Power Ranger fans out there, if you got Instagram, go check out the Trifora. They're going a little crazy.
Pipe bombing and stuff.
Yeah, but it's like, I've listened. Like they've been going on Instagram Live like almost every day, and like they post the videos, and I watched it was like 2 hours of like a rant that made 0 sense.
Some of that is so weird, because it's like with other people, you showed up in other films and stuff. It was like, we haven't really seen, at least it was nothing that's popular. It's like, what else have you done? Because there's no way. There's no way you eating off that money for 30 years. Like, what else have you been doing?
They did something like soap operas, I believe.
Yeah, but it's just like, to have this much animosity over something so small. I'm like, what?
All right, I don't know. Are we talking about it?
I don't really want to, honestly, but if you want to mention something real quick, go ahead. All
right, so basically, the 2 of the 3 triplets feel like they don't like that the original Red Ranger is getting credited as OG Gold Ranger, and when they feel like they're OG Gold Ranger, even though technically speaking, there was somebody else who did the voice of the Gold Ranger before they were cast. But they feel like they're OG Gold Ranger. They want more recognition. They want to be front and center a lot of these like conventions and everything, and they're not treated that way. So they consider the original like MMPR Rangers, like the original season 1, as the OGs of each color. And the Jason David Frank was OG green and white. They're OG Gold, and Zane from In Space is OG Silver, and they feel like they're not respected as such. Okay. Where it gets weird is
they got their own figure. Like, what?
I
bought it. What?
Is, they need to be respected as OG Gold, because to help with like mental health stuff, they can pass the gold powers on to people, and it instantly makes them feel better. But they can't do that if Austin St. John doesn't step up as the leader of Power Rangers and acknowledge them as OG Gold. So the rest of the Zeocast also needs to share the clip on Instagram of them passing the powers to JD or to Austin St. John to acknowledge them as OG Gold for the fans, because that's how they can help the fans. And they're doing it because they care about us. That was the argument. And he went on this rant for 2 hours about that. It was the wildest.
It's so old. It's like, let it go.
And then they said for each day that it's not done, they're going to be called out. So I think they've been going on Instagram Live each night, calling them out for not sharing this video, and they're mad at like Austin, and he just hasn't replied. Like he hasn't.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't. And you know what's dumb? Like the only way you could have, so for Hasbro, the only way you could get the Gold Ranger is to get the trade one, because the red one was sold, or the Jason 2-pack was sold out before it even launched by it was sold out by all the members of the Hasbro website. So you literally could not get a Hasbro Gold Ranger unless you get one with a Trey head in there, and it has Trey's name on it. So I'm like, what are we talking about? Like the only way you can get it is to get it with it. You could probably put Jason head on an after the fact when you take, you know, everything out of their packages and you get the regular red one. But I have like both of them in single packs, and one of them is Trey and one of them is Red Ranger Jason. So it's like, what is the issue here? Like,
I don't know. I don't know.
Like literally, that's the only way you can get it, because they took all the other ones, the Bandai ones, off the shelves. You can't even get that no more unless you go on eBay. So it's like,
honestly, what I think this is at most conventions, they're like, guess who's going to be here? OG Red or OG Black or something like that, and they're never front and center. I think that's what this is. But I just looked it up. So they've had 4 acting credits where they're always together.
Okay.
So 2 of the acting credits is Power Rangers. So like you can count that as one, because one of them's like
they was only on there for like 2 episodes.
So it was Zeo 5 episodes. But then it was also a 2022 short. And then in 1998 they played Juan Lopez 1, 2, and 3. And in Boy Meets World they played Male Triplet 1, 2, and 3. In 1999. That's all their acting credits. So they're doing other stuff. And
they obviously made so much money back then that they had to do nothing else all the way to now.
Yeah, because they've been on Instagram Live overnight complaining.
I'm like, okay. All right, so if they ever hear this somehow, it's not going to get tagged really, but if they ever hear it, I did enjoy the Gold Ranger's voice when it was Trey's voice. I thought it sounded better than Jason, even though we used to Jason. I was hyped to see Jason return when they did the pop. I think even in the show they said that was one of the biggest moments, but I liked his voice more. But each time it was like, it was hyped that people thought it was going to be Billy. And then he went as far as like, they went as far as get Tommy's brother at one point, and then I think that's when Jason finally came. So at any cost, the way it was going was that they were not going to have the powers anymore anyway. So it was like, homie, you couldn't even keep the powers. However that was going.
They needed to pass the powers to heal themselves or something.
Yeah, it was like, the powers would be lost forever and all this stuff. And then Jason just appeared. And they gave it to him. It was still hyped. The Gold Ranger toy was still like one of my favorite toys as a kid.
Yeah.
It was the red. It was the Jason Fliphead though, but it was still one of my favorites. That joke is silly though. That's silly. That reminds me of like the kid Dynamite guy, like going on like almost 70, 80 years old, still saying it, and it was like nothing else. It was just like, don't be that. Don't be that one hit wonder person.
My brother came up with this saying that he would want to go to a convention, like knowing that they're there, and show up with one of the pictures of Jason as the Gold Ranger and ask them to sign it.
Yeah.
And watch them just lose it. Because they're going crazy about this. Like, they are real mad. And it's just like, oh, it's the funniest thing. So if you have some time to, like, just fast forward through it just to try and follow their logic, like, go ahead and find it. It's funny.
Yeah. Well, hit the like button, because I didn't think we was going to make it to 2 hours, but we probably are. Even though the next part, I'm probably still going to keep short on my end, which is just the Last of Us show review for the first episode. It's not too much I really want to talk about outside of just praising them for staying very close to the detail of what the game was, because there were some moments where it was like shot by shot the same that I recognized, and then like clothes and stuff, like certain things is like they didn't take the Resident Evil route, right, where they was just like completely was doing their own thing and just keeping the name. It was like they actually like kept it more in line. Like before, I remember with the little girl, it was kind of goofy in a way where everybody was kind of laughing like she don't look like Ellie at all or whatever. Where even with Joel, they kind of made old boy like work in a way, but I will say she still acted her part very well, and there were moments where she still sounded like her, as far as her voice acting in a way. So, I can't fault that. There were still definitely, like I said before, scenes where it seemed shot by shot almost the same, as much as they can make it to the animation of it, which I appreciated. Even when they took certain liberties here and there, it was still done in a way where it was like, this is what you probably would have seen if we did a behind the scenes on certain scenes in the game, instead of just completely changing. Like some stuff they still changed a little bit, like Joel's daughter seeing the runners and the zombies basically like before the car ride. You know, that was somewhat of a change because that didn't happen the other time. But like the car ride itself was like spot on the same. So, yeah. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I thought it was. I enjoyed it. Like it worked. The changes that they did do. I like that. I feel like the story is strong enough for someone who, even if they haven't played the game, they're not going to be like all lost and they can appreciate everything that's happening. So it's a good game to do this on. So sticking to the source material, I think, is good. And any sort of liberties they do take makes sense in the context, like you were saying. I thought it was well done. The tone seemed great. Like it's good. And I do think like a lot of people were casted based off of their acting, and if you can act like the role, I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean they did race swap a little bit.
Yeah,
they didn't do that with the black lady though.
Yeah, but I do think the acting like still worked though.
Yeah, it still worked. It still worked for what it was. I do like. So I guess it's spoilers, but it doesn't feel like a spoiler to me because I feel like if you watch this, you probably should have been playing the game first. But I guess I still appreciated that they put emphasis on the watch. They still put emphasis on that. Technically, Joel and Tess were not the most stand-up people, I guess.
Yeah, everyone being he's like he's afraid of you.
Yeah, and then they put a little bit more emphasis on that he dealt pills, which wasn't really like focused on before, but that was like one of the things that you will find throughout the game. Was like you find pills that will like increase your health. It was kind of odd at first, but you kind of got used to it over time. But in the show, he's dealing the pills a little bit.
I mean, to be honest, it makes a little more sense than finding like a loaf of bread, just eating it, or like a nicely, perfectly done potted plant that you can somehow heal yourself with.
Yeah, it's certain things in games where you kind of just have to take liberties a little bit. Like in certain games where it's just like, oh, here's this like flammable propane tank that's like conveniently here and here, and then when the people come running in, you can shoot the propane tank and it'll take everybody out. It was like
the Division.
That's Division 2. That was actually in Alan Wake as well. That was in Alan Wake. But also with like Last of Us, it was just kind of weird because it was just like, oh, it's just pills everywhere.
Yeah, speaking of that, real quick side note, I don't remember what game it was, but one of the most frustrating thing was there was a red barrel and I shot it and nothing happened. Like I can't remember. I was so mad. I was like, "Why is this red?" Like, I don't remember what game it was, but yeah.
Some of the games have it. It might have been Borderlands. Some of the games have red barrels, a lot. But I guess like the only way you could take it is like to make it more realistic is like when you go in people's houses and stuff, like in the apocalypse time. Technically, you might find some pills like in their bathrooms or something if they just running around as zombies. So it's kind of realistic to an extent.
I don't know why, but his line when he was just like, "How old?" and he's like 3 months and everything. Like I liked it. It's like, no, there's no production of new pills. Like deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that just line of realism was like,
yeah. So very rarely I would do something like this, but I guess I can give some props to Neil Druckmann. even though he kind of ruined the second game, the first game at least he made sure, because I think he was very much involved with this production. He was there making sure everything goes right. So he did make sure. Unfortunately, somebody was not involved with Resident Evil. At least I don't think they was. It's like Resident Evil, it didn't matter what it was, TV show or movie, they got to do whatever they wanted to do and just kept the name. They really did.
And now I don't want to bring up this other show, but like with another show out there, it's starting to somewhere where it's just like it's okay to do your own thing and make it inspired by.
Yeah.
Versus just straight up taking the name, the property, the nostalgia of everything, and then making your own fan fiction. Like, I don't know, that's been getting on my nerves a bit. Like, it's perfectly okay to be like, oh, this is clearly that, like, Mike Tyson's Mysteries, right? Was clearly an adult animated mocking of Scooby-Doo. Clearly, 100%, right? And they didn't need to steal the character names. But, like, and I feel like Resident Evil could have been that, too. It could have been something where, and they could have called it Biohazard, because that was one of the code names for Resident Evil, and then clearly make it inspired by. Like, it's very out. And then, like, Umbrella Corporation, they could have still kept that name, right? Because that was just the giant corporation.
Right.
But then all the characters could have been original. It still would have been, like, not good. But, like, it would have been its own as, like, an attempt of
I just know that the Wesker story just became a hot mess by the time they bought the Neo one out. It was just like, yo, it was so goofy.
And up until that point, he was the only character I liked in the show.
Yeah.
And it was still like, but you're not really like him. Like, he had the intimidation part down. But like, then they just did all the goofy stuff. And it's like, he could have used any name you wanted. And it's just like,
The only other thing, I guess, for Last of Us, spoiler-wise, that I can mention is just that they teased it, but they didn't show the actual clickers. I guess it would have been a stalker if the thing came off the wall, the thing that was like on the wall, it would have been a stalker in that phase. Yeah, but it didn't. They didn't show clickers in the first episode. So that kind of makes you want to go into the next one because you want to see the clicker. Which I do know the way the game goes, you would definitely they're going to run into the clicker like right away in the next episode. So for me watching it, like I kind of know what was going to happen next just because I've played the game and everything, but it was so spot on. And it was done in a way where, like with other games, like, people would make the excuse like, well, then you know exactly what's going to go on and you wouldn't be interested. It was like, well, I'm kind of still interested in this, even though like initially I said I only wanted to see the bloater and see the bloater fight, but now I kind of want to see the whole thing. I think it's only like 9 episodes anyway, so I'm very much interested in it. I don't know how they're going to do a season 2 because old girl is young. I don't know how they're going to do it, if they're going to do it right away, but I did see how people were speculating who was going to be in season 2 because I guess Neil Druckmann was following certain people on Instagram. I was like, y'all looking at it way too much. That's kind of silly.
I just saw I saw an article. I was like, I think we found her Abby, and I didn't click on it.
Yeah, I was just like, what? Like, it was just some random person who's an actress. I'm like, I don't know, whatever. But at least for season 1 so far, episode 1 was done correctly in my opinion. It was done very well. It's got me hooked to see the clickers. I'm still hooked to see everything going forward. I don't know if it's really a spoiler for everybody. Majority of the people probably already seen this. For anybody who hasn't, I guess it gives you emphasis to go and play Last of Us Part 1, but remember there's still the PS5 collection version as well, so you still have access to the real original, which still holds up to today, and that's the one that has factions. But yeah, I don't know what else to say on it, because it's not really much to say that's like spoiler. It's just like there are certain details that was like really like spot on frame for frame with the actual game. And then there's other things that was a little bit extra, like the stuff with Tess by herself. That was extra. Like that, every time you seen Tess in the game, she was with Joel and with the Fireflies for that particular moment. So yeah, so I'm interested to see the rest of it.
Pedro Pascal is good. He's a good actor.
Yeah,
Like
he's
he's
good.
killing it right now.
He's
Like The
good.
Mandalorian, this.
Yeah, they made
Uh,
him more like I felt he was more believable as Joel. I wasn't focused on him being like like a race swap or whatever, because I know that's what one thing people were saying for a couple of the characters in the beginning. And then the Sarah one was a surprise, but she was only going to be there for the first episode anyway, because everybody knows that she would have passed away basically, which is, I guess, spoilers, but
Oilers.
yeah, I guess even in the game, that's like you ain't even gonna get in the game that long before that's over with. So that's probably the only thing that's a major spoiler, and it's like done still very early. I think they fleshed her out a little bit more, I guess, to make people like feel more for that one moment that was gonna come up. But yeah,
For anybody that wants to complain spoilers, the game came out in 2013. You've had more than enough time.
yeah, it wouldn't really like the only thing that would get spoiled really is that it was like close to frame by frame what the first few hours of the game was, which really actually only the first like hour and a half, really.
Yeah.
Not too much really would get spoiled here outside of like what happens to Sarah. Everything else is just setting up the introduction of it, and it's more about the nostalgia feel for a lot of people maybe. But anybody else going into this, nothing else is really a spoiler but Sarah dying. Like that's like the only thing. Other than that, you should be expecting an apocalypse. Like you should be expecting that before you even see the first episode, right?
Based off of the name alone.
The beginning part was a little bit extra, but it was appreciated where somebody was trying to explain the idea of the cordyceps. And I think it was like, this is in the 60s or something. So that wasn't in the game at all, but that was just a little bit more extra. But it worked. It was short and sweet, very beginning, and then the show itself starts, right? And yeah. So that's all I really got to say about it. I just thought it was very done very well. The only thing I can say is just like, shame on you, Resident Evil. Because I always compare it to Resident Evil because I'm like, yo, Resident Evil could have done way better. Way better. But at the same time, for what I was saying before with some of the Resident Evil videos, don't worry about it because you're still getting constant game releases. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what you want overall, is to keep getting the games. So they're still giving you the games, variety of them. Just like Resident Evil 4 remake that's coming out soon. And then I'm pretty sure they're going to go to Resident Evil 9 or the one that was supposed to be on the Switch with Rebecca. But yeah, so Last of Us as a franchise, I mean, it's alive and well. Part 2, I still want to see, how do you do a part 3? How do you quote unquote fix it? I feel like it needs to be fixed. How do you do it? But yeah,
I actually don't know.
Any last words on it? We could end this, man. We made it to 2 hours. I don't know.
No. Series is good. That's my last words on that. It's good.
All
Check it
right.
out.
Yeah, and then even in Apocalypse Last of Us time, please make sure you still wash the back of your ears. Yes, I still went there. Thank you for your mods, though. All right, and we are out.